In the incredibly beloved CW, though I think at the time it was called the WB, Superman series Smallville, Michael Rosenbaum's Lex Luthor says the line, "The fundamental weakness of Western civilization is empathy." Well, almost. This is actually a quote from billionaire Elon Musk, someone who, for the first half of this year, was granted an absurd amount of power and governmental control by the current president of the United States, Donald Trump. When I first heard it, I thought it sounded like something a supervillain would say, and after doing a quick search for some popular Lex Luthor quotes, a few of them were unnervingly similar. There's this one he actually did say in Smallville.
Sentimentality is synonymous with vulnerability.
And this one from Superman American Alien number 4. That's why you see people throughout history rising above the masses. Those are the changers. Those are the doers. You are not important. You're not. I am. These similarities are a bit uncanny, but they're not particularly surprising, because over the past few years, right-wing values have almost completely broken off from empathy. Empathy, for the sake of clarity, being, as Google defines it, the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. Now, Elon Musk is not exactly on Trump's good side anymore, but if anything, Trump values empathy even less than his former friend, with behavior like peddling dehumanizing lies about people to further his agendas, belittling the president of Ukraine when he met with Trump at the White House, trying to pass a bill to make rich people richer by severely inhibiting things like Medicare, Medicaid, and SNAP, aka food stamps, and also deporting people residing legally in the United States without any sort of due process, and without making any attempts whatsoever to bring them back. Just last week, the American government started to put unconstitutionally detained immigrants into a, let's call it what it is, camp in Florida, and are taking pride in how horrible the conditions of it are. Look, I could go on, but this is depressing, and I think you get my point. The United States of America is currently run by people who have made it their mission to demonize the concept of empathy. So, what does this have to do with Superman? Superman, created in 1938 by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, was created to be the champion of the oppressed. As author Roy Schwartz explains in Richard Jerome's article for Life, Superman, the first and foremost superhero from July of 2023, when he debuted in 1938, he was known as champion of the oppressed, a firebrand New Dealer promoting immigration reform and racial equality. When America entered World War II, Superman changed from rabble-rouser to role model and became a national icon. In the 1950s, he became a patriarchal authority figure and a big blue Boy Scout, which is the version people remember from the Adventures of Superman TV show starring George Reeves. Then in the 1980s, he became a yuppie super-Republican, embracing the Reagan Revolution and the era's aesthetic. But for all of the changes, he's still the same guy Siegel and Shuster created, a hero who preaches tolerance for all but the intolerant, and who personifies the indomitable human spirit. In other words, Superman stands for the polar opposite of what the people in power are pushing. Where people like Donald Trump and Elon Musk look down on workers and poor people by causing inflation to rise with little sympathy and mass firing nonpartisan government workers, Superman stands for workers' rights, like in the inaugural issue of Jason Aaron's ongoing Absolute Superman, in which Superman uses his powers to help overworked Brazilian miners and stands up to the peacemakers when they start attacking the miners. Where someone like Trump is fine with unnecessarily putting people in danger if it means he and his friends get richer, Superman will always save as many lives as he can, even if he has to put his own self-interest to the side. In Grant Morrison's iconic all-star Superman, Clark has to leave an important conversation because someone needs saving, and he spends his dying days saving people and trying to find a replacement who can keep Earth safe after he is gone. Where someone like Trump thinks he's above the law, Superman holds himself to the same standard he holds everyone else to, like in Alan Moore's Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow, where, spoilers, skip ahead 10 seconds if you haven't read it and would like to not know the ending, Superman kills someone and gives up his powers because he doesn't think he should be allowed to kill. Alright, spoilers are over. Superman's arch-nemesis is a wealthy CEO who thinks he's better than everyone else, and Superman was raised by good people who taught him the value of kindness and empathy. What makes him a hero isn't his powers, but how he uses them to inspire and help people, and how he always fights to make the world a better place. In other words, what makes him a hero is his empathy. In Gene Luen Yang's Superman Smashes the Klan, when Superman is questioned about why he cares for people he doesn't have a shared history with, he responds, "We are bound together by the future. We all share the same tomorrow." Empathy isn't a weakness, and it certainly isn't the fundamental weakness of Western civilization. It's a strength. It takes strength to have a superhuman level of power and choose to use it for the benefit of all, not just yourself. As Lois Lane says in Jeff Loeb's Superman for All Season, we live in a world where nobody sticks their neck out for anybody. I write about it all day long. We lie to each other, we brutalize each other, we kill each other. And here's this man, sticking his neck out for everyone. Way out. If you want to hear more about this, you should watch Overly Sarcastic Productions' detailed diatribe satirizing Superman, because they talk even more about how Superman is already a subversion of what you would expect from someone with such an insane level of power. The real gimmick of Superman isn't someone having superhuman power, it's someone choosing to use their superhuman power for the benefit of all, and someone who holds themselves to a strict moral code.
So what I had to do, more than anything, was earn their trust. Prove to them that no matter what, I would never use my powers to hurt them. 20 years later, Every time I use my powers, that trust is tested. Every time.
It takes strength to have the power to make the world a better place and actually choose to do so, and this is a power people like Elon Musk and Donald Trump lack. Realistically speaking, I don't need to explain why empathy is a good thing and not, the fundamental weakness of Western civilization, but I would still like to take a moment and make it clear why empathy is something we should be in favor of, just so we're all on the same page. Empathy is something we should all want to have because it makes us all better. When we care about the well-being of other people and actually consider their perspective, we can understand the complexities in just about every situation, and if we understand why people feel a certain way, rather than just how they feel, we can better come to a collective understanding. If the people at the top of the governmental totem pole cared about our country and its people more than they cared about giving themselves more money and power, then a lot of the problems facing our country would be solved. People like Elon Musk will claim you shouldn't have empathy because it can be exploited by the woke left to make everyone gay or something. I don't know. Conservative ideology makes as much sense as the plot of the Star Wars sequel trilogy. Hi, I'm popping in here real quick while I'm editing this because the joke you just heard was stupid and, more importantly, it completely ignored the actual argument most conservatives make. I used some footage of Ben Shapiro earlier, and it's from a clip where he claims having empathy is a good thing, but it should be left out of politics because empathizing with one person or one group of people makes you ignore all of the other people your political actions will affect. And to his credit, I can see how aligning oneself to a specific group or cause could have a negative effect on other people, but I also think he has a flawed view of empathy. This type of argument assumes you can only empathize with one side of an issue, but you can put yourself in the shoes of different people, and at the very least, make an effort to understand where they are coming from. I would go as far as to say trying to empathize with all sides of an issue gives you a clearer picture of a given issue, and the nuances embedded within it, and allows you to make a decision wherein the majority of people will either be positively or neutrally affected. And looking at the full quote Elon Musk gave on Joe Rogan, I think he is arguing more so about how empathy can be exploited, not necessarily about why having empathy is bad. He even says he believes in empathy and caring about other people, but I struggle with this view because he doesn't go into any specifics on where and when to have empathy, who is exploiting empathy, or what empathy exploitation even looks like. He could be talking about, like, a toxic partner trying to guilt you into staying with them, or he could be talking about the woke left exploiting people's empathy for immigrants and trans people.
It's also the rigid adherence to that liberal ideology.
Anyway, I just wanted to actually break down conservative arguments instead of strawmanning them for the sake of brevity, so with this out of the way, I will shut up and let my past self keep talking. Admittedly, empathy can be exploited, but not in the way Elon Musk is talking about. Ironically, or fittingly, take your pick, a lot of conservative ideology comes from empathy manipulation. Their arguments against abortions are mostly about how it would hurt those sweet little innocent babies. Their arguments against trans people in sports are centered on the emotional effects it would have on cisgendered children. Their arguments against immigrants are rooted in dehumanization.
They're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
Because they can only get people on their side if they don't view immigrants with any sort of empathy. Most of the time, they don't exactly have facts to back them up, so their main mode of manipulation is emotion, specifically a combination of fear and empathy. So empathy can be exploited, but it's still incredibly important to have. Without empathy, what you're left with is apathy, which is even worse because it's essentially throwing the baby out with the bathwater, but these babies are already born, so who cares? It's true, with apathy, you don't give your time, money, and energy to people who are just trying to manipulate you, but you also ignore all of the people who genuinely need help. Obviously, and especially in the age of the internet, you should be careful about people who want to exploit your empathy for their gain, but you can be mindful of potential scammers and still have empathy for the people who really need help, and it usually isn't too difficult to verify if something is legit or not. Like, say if you wanted to help some of the civilians in Gaza, especially those with disabilities and those with children, you can donate through GoFundMe or Chuff.org, which verify donation pages to make sure your money goes to people who actually need it, not people trying to take advantage of your kindness. Like Superman says, we all share the same tomorrow, and with empathy, we can make a better tomorrow for everyone. But why am I tying this back to Superman? Some believe that Superman's radio defeat of the Clan of the Fiery Cross led to the real-life Klan's public image downfall. After being portrayed as bumbling, hateful rubes on a children's show, the Ku Klux Klan would never again command the same level of respect it had once enjoyed. In the back of Superman Smashes the Klan, the story's writer, Gene Luen Yang, includes an essay entitled Superman and Me, about the history of the KKK, his family, and Superman, and it ends by discussing the aforementioned prevented return of the KKK at the hands of Superman, and the 16-part radio broadcast Smashes the Klan is an adaptation of. There's a long history of media having an impact on society. Sometimes its impact is negative, like Birth of a Nation in 1915, which revived the KKK and led to a new era of racism and bigotry, but popular media's impact can be, and has been, positive as well. To quote Marissa Guthrie's February 2019 article, 50 Years of Sunny Days on Sesame Street, behind the scenes of TV's most influential show ever for The Hollywood Reporter, from the start and continuing through the decades, the show pushed the envelope of TV egalitarianism. In 1971, it cast Sonia Manzano in the first Latina leading role in TV history. She played Maria until retiring in 2015. In 1975, it became the first kids program to show a child with Down syndrome. In years since, there have been Muppets with AIDS, Muppets with Autism, and, debuting in December, a homeless Muppet. Sesame Street was, as well, one of the earliest children's shows to feature a mixed-race cast, which resulted in Mississippi banning it for a month. To this day, conservative politicians can't handle the show promoting such horrific ideas as the respecting people who are different from you. But it isn't just kids' media having a positive effect on the world. Victim, a movie from 1961 about a gay man who has to save his career after he gets blackmailed by people who find out about his sexual orientation, changed Britain's stance on homosexuality. As Juan Oriana wrote in his article in Collider from January of last year, entitled 10 Movies That Changed the World in Real Life, Victim is one of the most important movies for the LGBT community. It was groundbreaking in and of itself for dealing with such a sensitive issue. The presence of the word homosexual in a mainstream film was enough to be incendiary in the early 1960s. Many believe that Victim's cultural impact contributed to changing attitudes about homosexuality in Britain, resulting in the passing of the Sexual Offences Act in 1967, which decriminalized homosexuality. In America, the movie Philadelphia from 1993 had a similar effect, as Katie O'Toole writes in her article, The Power of Cinema, 10 Films That Changed the World, for Radiance. The film had a global butterfly effect. Hundreds of thousands of people felt empathy towards those afflicted with the illness. Although still a battle bravely faced by the gay community today, Philadelphia pushed the HIV epidemic controversy to the forefront of conversations and marked the beginning of a shift in attitudes. More recently, mainstream media has had a positive impact on mental health awareness. Shows like Ted Lasso and movies like Inside Out and its sequel have worked to destigmatize mental health. As Melina Reisig writes in her article, How Inside Out and its sequel changed therapy for the New York Times, the story of the mood steering the control panel in the head of a girl named Riley has been transformational, many experts said, in day-to-day treatment, in schools, and even at home, where the films have given parents a new perspective on how to manage the turmoil of growing up. Later in the article, she cites Regine Galanti on using quotes from Inside Out to help adults during therapy sessions. There are still some pretty abysmal depictions of different mental health conditions like autism and OCD in recent media, but even Marvel has started taking mental health seriously with Thunderbolts asterisks. In a different field of representation, the recent success of Sinners, alongside successes from other filmmakers who aren't your traditional upper and middle class white men, like Jordan Peele, Celine Song, and Jane Schoenbrunn, reflect audiences' eagerness to see stories from people with unique backgrounds, and will likely have an effect in pointing out societal issues and fighting against harmful stereotypes. Movies, TV, and guys who wear their underwear on the outside can change the culture. These things have the power to make the world better, or worse depending on their messaging. Now, this new Superman movie wasn't made by a filmmaker from a marginalized group. White superhero nerds are not exactly facing persecution, despite what certain grifters might tell you. However, Superman is fighting against bigotry, and against the types of people who want to keep turning public opinion against empathy. He's won the fight against hatred before. Can he do it again? Sorry if my audio sounds a bit different here. I'm recording this section later than the rest of the video because I wanted to see James Gunn's take on the Big Blue Boy Scout before I release this video, but I only need to talk about it in this section, so if you haven't seen the movie yet and you don't want to be spoiled, you can either hopefully skip to the timestamp listed in the description, or you can just come back and finish this video at a later date. I figured the movie would be empathetic and hopeful because James Gunn talked about basing his take on the character off of stories like All-Star Superman and Superman for All Seasons, and for outlets like the Sunday Times he gave quotes saying, "I mean, Superman is the story of America, an immigrant that came from other places and populated the country. But for me, it is mostly a story that says basic human kindness is a value and is something we have lost. And it's about human kindness, and obviously there will be jerks out there who are just not kind and will take it as offensive just because it is about kindness, but screw them." So now, having seen the movie, I can say it reflects human kindness very well. In a lot of the trailers, we see Superman saving people, and almost every fight scene in the movie has some element of him having to save people. Even in the final fight, where everyone is fleeing the city and Superman battles Ultraman and the Engineer in empty streets and ballparks, Superman has to save the people of Jaranpur when the Baravian army, with the backing of Lex Luthor, attacks them. But he can't do it by himself, which is another way this movie shows kindness. Superman is a vulnerable character in this movie, and he has to rely on others. Superman being trapped in Lex's pocket dimension reminded me a lot of All-Star Superman Episode 8, Us Do Opposite, where he is stuck in the Bizarro world and has to find a way home while he gets constantly weaker and weaker. Despite playing out differently, Superman gets out of both situations through the help of others. In the final fight, Superman can't stop Ultraman and Lex quick enough to save the people of Jaranpur, so he gets the Justice Gang to stop the invading Baravian army. I was surprised by how the Justice Gang was used in this movie, because I had expected the film to take a page out of Kingdom Come, where Superman has to show other superpowered vigilantes what it means to be a hero, but this movie doesn't really go there. I say this as a positive, because while I think Kingdom Come is one of the best Superman stories ever written, this movie's Superman is at a very different point in his story than the version from Kingdom Come, and his relationship to the Justice Gang highlights another great aspect of the character. One of my favorite jokes in this movie happens when Lois visits the Hall of Justice and learns Clark already told them his secret identity, because this is a perfect depiction of his character. Superman wants to see the good in everyone, to a point where he trusts people he has only just met. Even though he doesn't agree with them on everything, like killing the kaiju, he believes in their shared desire to do good and protect humanity, and this trust is rewarded when the Justice Gang takes care of the alien Sun Eater kind of thing. I'm a fake fan, I forgot what it was called. Time and time again, Superman approaches people in situations with kindness, and while people like Lex Luthor can't be swayed by his earnestness, Superman's kindness is what ultimately saves the day. He only gets out of the pocket universe Lex trapped him in because of the trust he showed Metamorpho, and he could have just flown away without helping, but he stuck to his word and put himself in extra danger to save baby Joey because it was the heroic thing to do. Like all of the best Superman stories, James Gunn's Superman shows why empathy is Superman's greatest strength. And guess what? Not even one day after its first public screenings, conservatives are already throwing a fit about it. How dare they make the superhero who always stands up for the oppressed and has a billionaire arch-nemesis woke? Look, these reactions are kind of disappointing, but not even remotely surprising. No matter how good this movie is, or how fundamentally fabulous its portrayal of Superman is, people who are against empathy will hate it because it is inherently a film about the value of kindness and empathy. In the same interview I cited earlier, James Gunn also said, "I don't make films to change the world, but if a few people could be just a bit nicer after this, it would make me happy." Despite the, well, whole premise of this video, I don't think James Gunn's Superman will change the minds of every empathy hater out there. But I think it could show some people why empathy is important, and it could maybe inspire more media to embrace empathy. Even if this movie, as is likely the case, doesn't lead to some big resurgence in empathy, I'm just happy James Gunn made a kind-hearted, fun, and joyous Superman movie that understands why this character has endured for 87 years. I'm not going to sit here and say James Gunn's Superman will cause the downfall of the Trump administration, because I may be hopeful, but there's a difference between hope and delusion. In all likelihood, Superman will make a ton of money because it's a Superman movie, and a lot of people will like it because it's a James Gunn movie, but I think it's a long shot to even suggest this movie will take down MAGA like the original Superman Smashes the Klan took down the KKK. But I think, maybe, this movie could make people more optimistic about the future. Movies like Superman and shows like Andor can show people why they need to stand up against oppression wherever they see it. Superman can show people why they should be cautious of someone like Trump, and I think most importantly, why they should care. Why they should care about who has the power in America and what they choose to do with it, why they should care about the problems in the world and how to solve them, and why they should care about their fellow humans. Superman is an ideal of what we can be if we work toward a better tomorrow for everyone, if we help our community and our world because we recognize how alike we are. The people in power in America want us divided. They want us to believe that everyone you don't know is out to get you. Everyone at the bottom of the totem pole is a threat, but they're the ones enforcing this worldview. They're the ones taking away Medicare and Medicaid and giving tax cuts to the rich. They're the ones trying to take away your rights while they give themselves even more control. The people with the most power are the ones most out to get you, because they want to keep themselves at the top and keep you at the bottom. They say what they need to say to keep themselves rich, because as much as things have changed, the people fighting against empathy have always been grifters. Confederates, the KKK, and MAGA are all groups who villainize empathy, and they do so either because it gives them power, money, influence, or all three. I think, and I hope, James Gunn's Superman will show people why empathy is a strength, why we need empathy to forge a better tomorrow, and why the people who want you to think empathy is a weakness are doing so because they want you to feel isolated and powerless. And I hope James Gunn's Superman inspires future releases from mainstream media to embrace hope and empathy. Because with empathy, we can bring about a better tomorrow for everyone, not just the rich and powerful.